So good afternoon, everyone. Actually, good morning or good evening for all of you located in a different part of the world. It is a great pleasure to welcome you today to our webinar, Empowering Quality Infrastructure Through Digital Transformation. My name is Luana Ladu, and I work for the German Federal Institute for Material Research and Testing. Together with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, we are excited to welcome you today to this webinar. This event brings over 200 participants across the globe, and this highlights the growing importance of digital transformation in shaping and enhancing quality infrastructure.
Thank you, Luana. And I brought some information because, as Dorina said, there might be a digital divide across, like globally, in terms of digital efforts and status. And we wanted to see in conformity assessment, where do we stand? So we see some lighthouse projects, some narrative, but do we know where the different countries and organizations in those countries stand at large? So we conducted the study at BAM to learn about the status of digital transformation and conformity assessment as such an important pillar of quality infrastructure. And let's look into the findings. So first of all, BAM usually does a lot of research in the technical fields for like safety and technology and chemistry, but we also have a little group that has an economics background, and therefore we are able to conduct such studies as well. So our interest was like to find out where do these conformity assessment bodies stand in terms of their digital maturity. But we also wanted to see what drives them. Are there any differences? What hinders them in digital transformation? And then finally, with all those buzzword technologies out there, which ones are actually indeed and in fact in application already? And we did so with some support from other research institutes and especially with support from accreditation bodies worldwide. So we partnered with them and they sent out our questionnaire, our survey, and we are really, really grateful for their support because it helped us to gather almost 1,500 respondents, which is huge and which allows us to really compare internationally and see where the different countries stand. So a special thank you also to UNIDO, who support us in West Africa, but also SWAG, which helped us there tremendously. So we came up with this sample, big sample, and as you might anticipate, most of them are testing laboratories. So we cover the whole quality infrastructure, but testing labs are the biggest groups. Also, calibration labs are well represented in inspection bodies. And also not surprising, it's mainly small and medium-sized companies. So this is the largest part of it. But now let's see what we found out in this study. First of all, as I said, how digital mature are those conformity assessment bodies? And that's a question that's, can be measured and answered by a digital maturity model. So usually, as a scientist, you look into, with such models, you look into the capabilities and the resources an organization has to transform digitally. And you do this in different success factor areas that we found out. For instance, strategy. And you will ask questions like, do you have a digital strategy, a roadmap, a person responsible for this topic? And with this, you answer this on a scale from 1 to 5. And with the help of this model, we could calculate kind of a score on digital maturity and a score for every individual organization, for every country. And here you see it for the whole sample. And you see it's like a normal distribution statistically, but most are basically at the very beginning of their digital journey. And I assume if we like ask any participants outside of our sample, they would be even more at the very beginning. But let's see into like the global distribution. And here we see like the global, the country average of digital maturity. And at the bottom, we see West Africa as a country, but at the top, for instance, UK, United Kingdom, and in between it's scattered. So you don't see any particular pattern in this, which we anticipated. But for instance, European country like Germany is very below. So it's not very advanced in digital maturity. Okay, that's the organizational perspective, but the next question is, do these organizations use digital technologies already? And here you see kind of a list with all those buzzword technologies, and we wanted to know, do you use it at least as a pilot project, or do you plan to use it? Do you discuss about these at least, or is it no issue? And along this scope of possibilities, that's the answer. And mobile and cloud technologies, okay, they are easily accessible and usable. These are already normality in CAPS. But when you look at the bottom, blockchain technology doesn't play a role. We must consider that the data comes from like 3 years ago, maybe 1.5 years ago, depending on the country. So I would assume that nowadays artificial intelligence, not much represented here, but maybe with ChatGPT and the like, it's more accessible meanwhile, and we would see a different picture in these results. But when we look into the countries and we calculated a score of like technology use and awareness, we see a very leading country here, which is Peru, and also in general, South American countries are quite well performing in this regard. And again, at the bottom, there's West Africa, Latvia, smaller countries. So here we see a clearer picture than before. The South American countries have a younger workforce in our sample, and the organizations are also younger. So we assume that might be some connection, that they are more tech savvy. I will just briefly say we also looked into like what is the main motive to drive digital transformation, and it's across all countries. It's like process optimization and efficiency improvements, sometimes more, sometimes less, but this is the main driver. It's not so much about business innovation. That's rarely the case. So it's digitalization is rather a process approach for them. And what keeps them away, and we just look at the top hurdles, and that's time constraints, of course, and it's a complex topic. So it's overwhelming for most small and medium-sized companies, especially in smaller countries. But also lack of resources, not so much as I expected. The exception is, for instance, Africa. And if we just want to summarize some of the findings, when we've seen that in West African countries, it's the lowest digital maturity and the least technology adoption, we also see that the biggest hurdle there is financial resources. So this might, of course, be one of the main explanations for that. But in South America, it looks already a little better from the data that the maturity and technology adoption is quite high there. For Europe, there was too much scatter. It's very diverse picture here. And now what do we do with this? It's just data, facts, and figures. For the German panel, okay, we send it out to the world. We informed all the international partners. But for the German results, we thought, well, we want to learn more. We set up a follow-up project, conducted some workshops with more than 100 participants from the lab industry. And we dig deeper in some of the topics. For instance, we found out many don't engage or don't engage enough because they don't know what the return on investment is. They want to learn more about best practices and success stories. And they also said, well, we don't engage as long as customers don't want it. So they are very driven from the market, and that's one thing that we need to address. So the next step for us is setting up more information, because we've seen that it's time constraints and that it's complexity. We want to help them by setting up information and a stronger partner network. So we deducted first next steps. So, and then last slide for me, as I said, quality infrastructure is more than just conformity assessment. So we need to see it as a complex system. And in Germany, we have founded an initiative called QI Digital, where all the partners of quality infrastructure, including PTB and the standardization organization partner to develop jointly tools and methods and processes like smart standards, digital conformity assessment certificates developed by PTB, for instance. And we try to figure out in pilot projects how they interact, how they need to be developed and to drive it. We also look at framework conditions like regulatory adaptations and a lot of international cooperation that we want to foster in the future as well. If you're interested, please write us. We are very keen to learn more about potential collaborations. And here is my last slide. If you're interested in the study results, we have a lot of publications, reports. If you're interested in QI Digital, let me know. We and our partners are very keen to learn more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very nice presentation.